Welcome to Loper Season Kickoff. Today we're visiting with UNK men's and women's track and field coach Brady Bonsall. You can also find the interviews with the tennis, softball, and golf coaches on our social media. Brady Bonsall is in his 16th year as the men's and women's track and field coach. During his time at UNK, he has seen student athletes qualify for the NCAA Division II championships in both cross country and track, set numerous school records, earn All-American and academic All-American honors, and win national titles. The track and field teams are wrapping up the indoor season and will be starting the spring season in late March. Welcome, Coach Brady Bonsall. Your teams will start preparing for the spring season soon, so would you please give us a quick look back at 22 outdoor and then give us a little preview of what's coming up for 23?
Yeah, for sure. As I look back on a year ago during that outdoor season, kind of what some of our highlights were obviously West Ferguson being a national champ in the 800 after winning it indoors as well. That was really big for us. Braden Sorensen again had a very good season. Was injured at the end of the outdoor season, didn't do as well at our NCAA championship meet as he would have liked, but qualified for U.S. championships in June, which that's only the second person that we've had compete in my time here at U.S. championships. You had Abby Everett in the high jump, who did really well, ended up being an All-American, had her probably best day of jumping that she's had in her life at the national meet. And then probably from a team standpoint, the biggest highlight was the women's team at the outdoor conference meet, scoring as many points as they have since we've joined the MIAA, and really that culminated a year for our women's team where in January things looked really rough. Abby Everett was injured at that time, and we had just lost our best thrower for the season to an injury, and we were dealing with a lot of just illness and injury on the track with track events, and how that team really built momentum towards the end of the indoor season and had a great outdoor season.
What should we be looking for as we approach this upcoming spring season?
Right. As we move into the spring, I think, you start looking at all the different event areas and everything. And obviously you got Wes coming back as a national champ, and he's growing as an athlete and doing even better. Indoor season went really well. Braden is healthy again. He hasn't PR'd, but as indoors had as consistent of a year as he's ever had, jumping at a high level every week. You also have at the throws Alex Garacki, who's just a grinder, who's worked really hard and is getting better and better, and he'll be big for us. And along with Evan Prohaska, who has developed in the indoor weight and hammer, but will be very good in the javelin. And on the women's side, you got Jada McEwen back, who was a national qualifier in the javelin, and you got just some people that are really coming on that are younger, like a Mara Hemmer or Nicole Messbarger, even Grace Bonsall in the 10K, who are all capable of whether they get to a national meet or not, I don't know, but they'll certainly be knocking on the door.
Who are some new folks to the team this year that we should be watching for?
Some of the new, that's always such a hard question for us, to be honest with you, because the MO of our program is development. And so if you look back in my time here, I've been here 16 years, the number of people we've had qualify for nationals in their first 2 years of college is a really short list. And some of the people on that list are Alan Osborne, who by his senior year was a national champ, Wes Ferguson, who became a national champ, so that honestly is a little bit challenging for us sometimes. But we've got a bunch of men's middle distance runners, and there's a whole crew of them, Tanner Cooper and Connor Wells and such, that are competing very well. On the women's side, again, it's probably someone like Nicole, who was struggling last year as a sophomore, who's coming out and doing really well for us. Probably, I leave out Lily Novacek, who redshirted last year. She was playing volleyball and doing track. We just used the whole year to develop her, knowing that her best event is one that she never did in high school, with the hammer, and then the indoor version of it being the weight. And so her indoor season went really well, and we really expect really good things for her out of the outdoor season.
As we think about the MIAA, who are some of the teams out there that will challenge your team, and what are some things to look for as the conference schedule starts?
Yeah. So when you look at the MIAA, and I don't actually say this hesitantly, I say it boldly, because I'm not the team sport. I'm not volleyball, I'm not football, I'm not basketball, and this conference is great in all of those sports, but there is no doubt that the best sport in the MIAA is track and field. And Pitt State's men are off the charts good. and their women, and Northwest Missouri's women are pretty good. And when throughout the indoor season, our men's team is ranked in the top 20 in the country, but we're the 6th ranked MIAA team in those national rankings. Just the quality of track and field in this conference, and I think if you look at track, you get an idea of how good all these other sports are too. Because I don't know if people in Nebraska always have a handle on exactly what the competitive level of Division II athletics is. And a little bit of it's just the dynamic of there's a lot of NEIA schools in the state. There's only 3 of us that are D2. We're not in the same conference. You get down in Kansas and Missouri, you start recruiting kids down there, and they know what the MIAA is because there's so many of them that are Division II. There's so many of them that are in that same conference that people have a good idea of what that looks like. And in track, it's measurable. And so we can talk about the guy from Pitt State who's leading all divisions, Division I, Division II, whatever, in the hurdles, and how he can jump 26 feet and 7.2 on top of it. Well, when it's measurable, you really can see how good our sport is. Well, even though I just said I think track's the best sport in the MIAA, when you look at football and basketball and volleyball, it's similar. It's just not as measurable in those sports. And so when you see those, hopefully our alumni, our supporters, really recognize, in a sense, the mountain that we have to climb, but yet also feel really good about when we do finish top 2 or 3 in the conference meet, or finish mid-pack, actually have a better team than what it looks like on paper, because that happens too.
As you get going through the season, you travel quite a lot, but there are a few chances where people can come to Kearney and
Absolutely.
watch you. Tell us a little bit about those meets.
Yeah, when they built the new high school 6 years ago, and UNK invested a little bit in that facility and paid for the steeplechase pit and javelin runway and hammer cages, we've got as good of college track facility to compete at right here at home as there is in the state of Nebraska, and honestly one of the best in the Midwest. When other people who haven't been here before come to a meet that we're hosting over at the local high school, I think at first they're a little wary because, it's at a high school, and then they show up, and by the time they leave that day, this has happened multiple times, they're asking us when we're going to put a bid in for the national meet, because it's a fantastic facility. And so we'll end up having 3 home meets as the year goes along. The first one is one that we co-host actually with Hastings College. It'll involve, with the exception of maybe 2 schools, every school in the state of Nebraska, and our one honorary Nebraska school down at Fort Hays. And then we'll get to a middle of April one. That's on April 1st. And then the middle of April, we'll host a 4 or 5 team meet. It's a little bit smaller. And then second weekend of May is our last chance weekend. So it's that one extra weekend after the conference meet. And that meet's not huge, but it's a really high caliber meet. Every year you have, I just think of the year that there was a gal who was on the bubble of qualifying for nationals in the long jump. She came from University of Sioux Falls and came down and competed here, and I think finished maybe 6th out of 7. There were only 7 women in the long jump that day. She jumped right at or close to her season best. And again, someone that was on the bubble of qualifying was 6th out of 7 that day. That's just one indicator of how good that meet is. It's a very, very low-key feel. If you don't know track and if you don't know the marks, you don't even understand how good it is. But yeah, 3 opportunities to compete at home, and then that helps us. Then, for one, it helps our performances. It helps us keep gas in the tank because we're not traveling every weekend, and then it helps the budget because then we can turn around and when we do travel, get to better meets when we do travel.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we wish your men and women's teams the best of luck.
All right, thank you so much.